Hi guys, this is me from the future. I'm editing the episodes from Scottsdale right now. Unfortunately, Vivian's audio is so bad that I don't want to release something half-assed. So I've taken the executive decision to keep Sarah's only because her voice, at least you can hear it through the podcast. The only thing is that we were in Scottsdale. It was really hot, so the AC was on, and I didn't think about that. Like, rookie mistake. It sounds like we're on a plane. So here you go. This is me and Sarah on a private jet. Hi, friends and colleagues. Welcome back to another episode of Unfinished Business, your self-sanctuary where we learn, grow, and level up. Today I have a guest speaker. I'm so excited. I'm here in Scottsdale with my friends, girls trip, and this time I have Sara. I was going to say Watson. Sarah. Wait, I was going to say Sara Hamza.
I am a Watson now.
Yeah.
Sara Hamza Watson.
Yes.
That's how I go professionally.
I love it. She's in the studio.
Yes, in the studio, W.
Yes. So I guess we can start by just briefly how we know each other.
Oh my goodness. We met, circa 2016, 17?
Yeah.
When did you move to San Francisco?
I'm so bad with dates, so you probably
It was somewhere around there. I had moved to San Francisco from Tennessee, which is where I grew up, and was working at the W Hotel in San Francisco, and I think I was there for about a year before you started. And I remember seeing you come out the doors of the kitchen, and you were like, "Are you the W Insider?" Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, okay. We can go into the brand stuff,
Yes.
like W Hotels, obviously, it's a really cool brand that we all work for. And I was obsessed with your position, the W Insider. So see it as like a curated concierge, like for you to understand what it is. And I always wanted to be a W Insider. So then, Sarah was a W Insider. I'm like, oh my God, I need to meet her.
But it was so fun. And what's funny is I always looked at the marketing position and was like, that's my dream job.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing you from far away and you said, are you the W Insider? And I feel like we just instantly clicked.
Yeah.
And
here we are today.
Here, the rest is history.
I know.
Yeah.
Like family.
Yes.
So elevator pitch, I always tell my guests, because I want to I don't want to give you any guidelines. You tell me who you are.
Okay.
Shoot.
All right. So I'm Sara Hamza Watson.
Yes.
I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. I went to college in Knoxville. And this is kind of a funny little thing that always surprises people, but I studied political science and global studies, which a lot of people don't know about because it's not my area of interest anymore. But graduated from University of Tennessee, and from there I was applying to jobs all over the country. So I live in Austin now, but when I graduated I wanted to move to Austin. Applied to a lot of jobs there and got no bites. So ended up moving out to San Francisco. Through college I worked in hotels, so at the time it was Starwood. So I knew I could go anywhere in the country and know that I would have some job security. Yeah. So I was working in a bar in the Four Points by Sheraton in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Wow.
And then transferred to the W, working in the living room bar in
Living
San
room
Francisco.
is the lobby.
Living room is the lobby.
To translate.
That has it's like a cocktail bar. We have lunch, dinner, all those things too. So I transferred to food and beverage in San Francisco. I had a friend that had just moved out there, and I'm like, well, I guess if I'm not getting a job anywhere else, this is a good time as any to go and try something new. I'd never been to California before.
Wow, I did not know that.
It was a risk, I guess, but it was a good one. And then from there, I fell in love with the W brand and the lifestyle hospitality world, and learned about the W Insider job when I moved out there. And then after a couple months in the bar, applied for that position when it became open, and then kind of started my hospitality career from there.
Yeah. One of the questions that I do like to go into is that like career timeline of like how many pivots we do, and like we don't, we plan so much for our careers or life, and sometimes it just doesn't turn out that way. And so you kind of like went into it a little bit, but tell me like briefly, like what is that? So since college to now, because we have to mention, so Sarah is a brewery owner.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I'm taking some turns.
Yes. So tell us like just briefly, like kind of like title wise, like how did you jump around?
So, well, I think we kind of mentioned it a little bit, but it's funny that studied political science and global studies thinking that that's what I wanted to do, and saw the hotel job as kind of something that just was going to tide me over till I found my footing in that world. And then as I spent time in that world, in the hotel world, I fell in love with it and quickly pivoted and said, this is what I want to do. Travel is such a big part of my life, and I think it's so special being able to help other people have those experiences. Mm-hmm. So being at the W really, I just fell in love with it.
That's okay. That is a phone playing.
Okay. So I thought that I would just be in the bar for a few months until I found a different job, but the W Insider position opened and went for it. I did that for a few years, and then actually I did that until I left San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So after a few years, my boyfriend at the time and I decided we wanted to leave California, and we did not know where we wanted to go. My then boyfriend was in the beer world in California. So he always had a dream of starting his own business. I had never actually had entrepreneurial dreams of my own in terms of starting a business. I was very happy working at the W and for corporations, and that was something that was totally new to me.
Which now, I mean, in retrospect, it's easier.
Yes.
It's everything is just, you get
life is a little bit simpler when you're working for someone else.
You have the guidelines, you have you don't have to do anything. You don't have to create
set up.
anything.
The structure is set up for you for the most part. Especially at a place like W or any large
big
corporation. Mm-hmm. So we decided to take a couple months off of work. We knew we were going to leave California, and we knew we were going to move somewhere. We didn't know where. So we took some time to travel around the U.S., and we did basically a massive road trip around the country. We went into Canada.
That's right.
And a big part of that was trying to figure out where we wanted to live. Mm-hmm. So, and then obviously there were some fun stops in between, national parks, camping, visiting friends and family, and all that fun stuff. But a big part of it was checking out cities where we could see ourselves settling down. And we had visited Austin several times before and knew we loved it. And that, when we visited on that road trip, is when we knew 100% this is where we want to live. Oh, wow. We just loved the city so much. And we could see the future for a brewery there. Mm-hmm. So we finished up our road trip and then pretty much moved right back out to Austin. So we did a lot of driving. I think it was like 16,000 miles across the U.S.
You started a blog back then, no?
Yes.
Is it still up? Like you
no.
can still know? Okay. And so tell me, so during this trip, so did you already then have like the vision, like, okay, like we're looking for a place because a brewery is going to happen?
Yeah. Okay. So on the road trip, the things that we were kind of sussing out were where can we see ourselves living, settling down, maybe having a home, and then where do we want to start a business? So that was a big part of the decision-making process. So we saw Austin as small business friendly, a good place to have a family and all those kind of things. So it just ticked a lot of the boxes of what we were looking for in a city. So we did kind of put the blueprint together for what would become Vacancy Brewing on that road trip, which is really cool because I always tell people that's what inspired so much of the branding was our time traveling.
Oh, wow.
So we took a lot of the inspiration from things we saw and things we did on that road trip and kind of built those into the brand. And I think it kind of goes back to working in hospitality, right?
Yeah.
Like we all have a love for travel and exploring, and just to kind of be able to pull some of those things into the brand was really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're already in it. Brewery, right? So let's.
I did skip one step.
Oh no, what was that?
So moved out to Austin.
Yeah.
And I was working while we were getting the brewery up and running.
That's right. In marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I took a few, going back to the pivots.
Yeah.
There were a few pivots in that time period. When we first moved out, I was contracting for a company. Again, I kind of saw that as a stepping stone until I found what I kind of wanted to do for a little while. Yeah. And then from there, got a job doing marketing at Hyatt in Austin. Loved doing that.
Yeah.
Pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Hospitality took a turn. Marketing's the first to go. Yeah. So was laid off at that time. And at that time, we had signed the lease for Vacancy. We had found the space where we wanted to do it. We were, I think we had even had our construction plans, but we hadn't started construction yet. Yeah. So I knew that there was going to be a good amount of time between then and when we actually opened. So I wanted to be working during that time. So for about a year, I worked for a branding agency where I learned a lot doing that. And
branding?
A branding,
Oh,
marketing
okay.
and branding agency
I
for
think I
consumer
know.
packaged goods.
What?
In
I
the
did
better
not
for
know
you
that.
space, yes.
So what did you? So does that mean you did the packaging design?
So we did a lot
Alongside-
of different things. I was focused on social media and marketing. So we would work with brands who were in big grocery stores like Kroger and Safeway and Sprouts, Target. That was actually really cool getting to work with Target.
Yeah.
My favorite place. So we would help do like marketing stuff for those brands with their retailers.
Okay.
But a lot of it was also social media. But we had other people on our team that were doing packaging design. But that's not, I wasn't doing packaging design.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, so again, a lot of pivots. Again, like I think that we all kind of know when we're not in a spot where we're happy, and encourage everyone to just take that step. If that is, sometimes I always say the power of networking, just connecting with people in new industries, like just go for it. Like I think, like what would you say? Is that like what happened to you? How did you pivot?
Well, after about a year of working at the agency, vacancy opened in 2021. So it took us about a little over 2 years to get open. So during that time, of course, I was working and also working on getting vacancy open. But after about a year of doing two jobs, it kind of came to a breaking point where it was like I can't really do both of these things anymore and stay sane. So I decided to leave the branding agency and go full force and focus on this company that we created. Yeah. And I've been doing that now for about two and a half years.
Does it feel like more? Because it feels longer to me.
It feels like a lifetime.
Yeah, like I feel like 2 years is
people ask me that a lot, and I'll say sometimes it feels like time flies, and then other days it feels like it's been a lifetime. So time is a weird constraint.
Yes. And so you said vacancy, because I actually don't know. Is it because like the hotel vacancy? Oh yeah.
So our logo is actually inspired by an old motel sign. So I love a motel. I know we've been joking about motels all week. Yeah. I love a motel. And we were driving on a road trip from Vegas to Joshua Tree, and there was this super cute roadside motel. It had 6 rooms and a really cool sign, and I just loved the look of the sign, and made Brent, my now husband, pull over, and we did this whole photo shoot with the sign. And we of course didn't know at the time, but that eventually inspired the logo and the branding for the brewery. But now we always just say with the name, we're inspired by a lot of the old roadside motels on Route 66 and all of that, but now we just say we like it because there's a vacancy for everyone in our tap room.
I love it.
We try to embrace being welcoming and introducing people to the craft beer world. And creating a warm, inviting space for them. So that's kind of where it started and how it evolved.
Yes, and I will have obviously her everything in the description of where you can go. Like if you're in Austin, go check it out. I was in Austin when you guys didn't have the brewery, so I yet have to go.
I think that we had probably signed the lease, or maybe we were still negotiating the lease, I think, when you were there.
So I never got to see it, but yeah. Okay, so so you told me, because my question was like, the whole idea of like from idea to conception, you did go through that a little bit. All right, so I guess because I think of it of a startup, right? It is a startup, like it's a company. And so what are the 3 things that you learned the hard way about opening a brewery?
Well, so many things. Every day is a learning experience. I think kind of starting from the beginning, and this is something we heard over and over and over again, like when we were asking for advice. But everyone says, double your budget, double your timeline. And I think you need a little bit of naivety to start a business in a way, especially a brick and mortar. And so, of course, we were like, we're going to be the outliers where we're not going to have to double the budget. We're not going to have to double the time. You will. Okay? Just know that to begin with. And I think one of the things, you can do as much research as you want for permitting and all the things you're going to need to open your business. There will always be something that pops up and kind of takes you astray. So that was something that happened to us. We had to end up getting a conditional use permit to even have a tap room, which was going to be the majority of the revenue of our business. So without that, the business wasn't viable at all. So we learned that after we had signed the lease, after we had we were about to start construction. And it was a really weird scenario where it's like, it was nothing, no research that we would have done would have prepared us for that.
Yeah.
Okay, the second thing I learned the hard way is, I mean, this business was started out of a passion for beer.
Yeah.
My husband has the beer background, so he's very passionate about that, and I have the hospitality passion, so creating an experience for people in a tap room, I think, was something I was really excited about and building the brand. But there's so much more to running a business than just doing those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you can plan for and you think you are ready for. You're not ready until you have to actually do it. And I think there were a few things that were a much bigger part of the business that we didn't consider from the beginning. So one of those is having a team and managing a team.
Yeah.
That's something, I really didn't have much experience with before. In hotels, marketing, usually it's one person. Of course, you're working with so many other people, but you work pretty independently a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So learning how to manage people and figuring all of that out has been quite the learning experience for me. And I think I have to remind myself that that's a skill I need to develop. So not just sitting and doing the things I know that I'm good at, which is, the marketing and the branding side of things, but also trying to figure out how to learn these new skills and apply them on the job.
Yeah.
That's been a tough
So
transition. Learning experience. Yes.
I love it.
So actually the third thing that I learned kind of goes into a little bit of that. Between the two of us starting this business, like we had a lot of bases covered.
Yeah.
Brent has the production background. I have a hospitality marketing background, and I picked up on a lot of other things such as the bookkeeping and the finances and running a front of house team. But there are so many areas that between the two of us, we still don't have covered. So one thing I definitely learned is that you can't do it all alone. You need to rely on resources and other people and learn how to delegate and find the right people to work with.
Yeah.
From the beginning, we're both do-it-yourselfers. So from the beginning, we wanted to be a part of every little thing, and I think we're still figuring that out. The first couple months, we were behind the bar every day we were open.
Oh, wow.
And we quickly learned that was not sustainable. Brought on, we're bartenders and people to serve the beer. Yeah. But now we're kind of learning that on a bigger level of, okay, well, if the business planning or the growth and the scaling, if that's not something that we have experience with, find the right people who can bring that expertise to the table.
Yeah.
So I think I have learned that we cannot do it all alone. As much as I think we're capable and as much as I think we cover a lot of bases, there's still holes. And so just knowing when to rely on other people, I think is really important.
Yeah. So let's talk about because I know that Brent has that brewery or beer background, and then you of course come with the creative branding and marketing and hospitality, like you said. But how about, have you seen any trends or innovations in the brewing industry?
Yeah, so I would say one of the big things we're seeing right now in the beer world is kind of the move towards the move towards non-alcoholic products. So people are starting to offer not only non-alcoholic beers, but either low ABV beers or alternatives like hop water. That's a big thing right now. So hop water is really cool because it uses the hops that you would use in beer and sparkling water, so you get those flavors and aromas from you would have from drinking a beer, but without the alcohol.
Oh, cool.
So the thing I love about that is if you don't drink or for whatever reason, you can still feel like you're taking part in the experience.
Yeah.
So we try to do a lot of different offerings for people. We want anyone to be welcome in our tap room and make sure that you don't have to be a beer drinker to come and enjoy yourself there.
Yeah.
So,
and is that, I'm sorry, it's just visually, is that it looks like just bubble water?
It's like a sparkling water,
sparkling water. Okay.
It's like a sparkling water.
Okay, cool.
So you'll see a lot of places right now experimenting with hop water mocktails, so using other things in the drink to make a cocktail experience for the customer. We're seeing a lot of CBD. So we do a fun drink at Vacancy with our hop water that we make in-house, and we partner with a local company called Redeemer Small Batch, and they have the CBD gummies. So we do a CBD hop water.
Yeah.
But you're seeing even, in packaged beverage, you're seeing a lot of the CBD infused hop waters now that you'll see those in the grocery store. I haven't seen too many with alcohol, CBD and alcohol, and I think that's probably there's some red tape, I imagine. I haven't looked too much into it, but I'm sure it's a legal thing. But I could see that potentially evolving in that direction at some point.
Yeah. Okay. And so when it comes to, because you guys need to go in and check out the social media. It's so fun. And I always see these new kind of beers that come out. And obviously, like, there's a theme. There's, like, you use it so well, like the layers around it. How do you balance that? Like, when you guys, you know, you have an idea for this new product, how do you balance the creativity that you put into it, branding it, but also, is it really, like, the process behind it as, like, the beer itself?
Right.
Is it that different? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, so I think, I'll start by saying that Brent came into this being very much a traditionalist. Like, he spent years making a German-style Pilsner for Trumer Pilsner in California, which, huge brewery, and they make one beer. So I think he was very much of that traditional mindset of, like, making traditional beers.
Yeah.
That doesn't always work in a small brew pub where variety is kind of the spice of life.
Do you still have that, though? You still have a traditional beer? Or no?
Oh, yes. Okay, so when we opened, we started with 3 beers. Brent had never made a hazy IPA, which has been, you know, a huge trend in the last decade or so in craft beer. And I think that's something that he was never even excited about making, but we knew that that's something that the consumer is demanding, right? So it's something we knew at some point he was going to have to give in. So I think kind of how we've gone with the creative process is really just listening to our customers, seeing what they're asking for. I think we have a small, intimate tap room, so we have the advantage of being able to have those conversations with our customers. Which gives us good feedback and kind of helps guide the recipe development. But we started with very traditional beers, beer styles. And I think in the last 3.5 years since we've been open, we've just kind of let the consumer guide us in terms of how or in which direction we want to go. So, for instance, of course, hazy IPA isn't really that out there, but we've done some sour beers, and that's something that we did because we kept getting asked, are you going to have a sour beer on your menu? People keep asking, so we finally did it. We've done some fun, like, experimental beers with partnerships with other companies in Austin. One really cool one that we've done is with the Austin Winery. It's a Texas winery, all Texas-grown grapes. We've actually used some of their grape juice, and I actually got to help press the grapes, which was really cool.
Is it like how you picture it, like with your feet?
Yes, and I did sanitize. So we used some of their grape juice in a beer, which is kind of more experimental, but just kind of working with the community partners and just kind of having fun with it. But yeah, I mean, Brent has definitely evolved as, I think, a brewer, because he's been kind of forced to push the boundaries a little bit just based on what we're hearing that the consumer wants.
Yeah. I was going to ask, so, I mean, how is he taking that, like, learning curve? Like,
you know, he loves it. I think I've never seen someone love something so much. I think he is always trying to learn more and learn processes. And one incredible thing about the beer community is it's very collaborative. So I don't know if this is the first time I've worked in beer, so I don't know if it's an Austin thing, if it's a beer community thing, but it's such a collaborative and supportive community. So we will, if Brent has a question about, you know, I've never made this style of beer, let me find someone in Austin who's really good at making that style, they're always willing to help and give their feedback and kind of help, like, look at the recipe and say, hey, I might tweak this a little bit. So it's not, you know, it's not cutthroat competitive like maybe some other industries. It's really collaborative, and people want each other to succeed. So that is one thing that I have been pleasantly surprised about.
That is awesome. Okay, so how about your experience as a woman in the brewing industry? I could be wrong, but I'm imagining it is very male dominant, but you tell me.
That is right.
Okay.
That is right. So that was something I think that was very intimidating for me from the beginning, especially because I didn't have a beer background. I wasn't coming in with, like, an expertise in beer. So not only was I, you know, underrepresented in this industry, I also didn't feel like I had enough street cred, you know? So it was really intimidating for me at first, and I think I really quickly found my community. So there's a couple of organizations that I'm a part of that really helped me kind of settle into the beer world, and the first one of those is Pink Boots Society, and that started as an organization for women in beer, and has grown over the last few years. So now it's women and non-binary individuals in the fermented beverage industry. So they kind of expanded what the community is. So not just beer anymore, it's wine, it's coffee, it's cider.
Yeah.
So we've really grown that community. But I went to my first meeting, I don't know, a few months after moving to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So I met this amazing group of women right off the bat.
Nice.
And I also thought that Pink Boots was all about just production, so about making beer, but it's people in the industry in every part of the business. So front of house, serving beer, cleaning lines, delivering beer, any marketing, finance. So it's people of all parts of the business. So you're really building that amazing community, and relying on your network has been a huge help for me.
That's amazing. So is there other female-owned breweries
There
in Austin?
are. There are.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with a lot of the female brewery owners. We have our own little community. So not only through Pink Boots, which it's actually a global organization. So, if you go to another city, you can, find your Pink Boots friends there.
Yeah.
But also another group I'm a part of now is Les Dames d'Escoffier, which is women in hospitality. Mm-hmm. And Austin is one of the most active chapters. And I joined last year, and that's been an incredible resource for me to grow my network and meet other women business owners in hospitality. So food, beverage, wine, we all get together and kind of rely on each other as a resource. If you need something, I shoot out an email. It goes to the 100 women that can say, "Oh, I know exactly who you need to talk to for this," and they'll get it to you. I don't know, in 10 minutes. It's incredible.
Oh, wow.
So that has been one thing that I think it was intimidating to come in as someone who is maybe underrepresented in the beer world. But I think if you rely on your community and your resources and use them and leverage them, it makes it a whole lot easier.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Yes, it's incredible.
That's amazing. All right. So here you are. I mean, again, I thought it was longer, but 2 years in, three. And so what advice would you give to other women going into the brewing industry, or actually just in general, like a woman that maybe feel like, have that little fear in the beginning?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, is to lean into your networks and rely on your community. Yeah. I think wherever you are in the world or the country or in space, rely on your networks. Yes. And one example I want to bring up is just using what's available to you with, for instance, the city of Austin. Mm-hmm. Their economic development department has a lot of resources that I used right when we moved. They have classes, they have workshops, they have webinars, seminars, and those are free for anyone who lives in Austin. So finding what's available in your community, and that was a really good start for me. They helped with business planning, they helped with financial planning, business coaches. They provide that for people in Austin who are starting small businesses. Of course, they want their economy to succeed and thrive, so they provide those resources. So I think that's a really good place to start. But then from there, looking for the more niche groups, people who are doing the same thing as you, and relying on those people to have to call and ask a question anytime you need something. For us, it's the Guild. We have a Texas Craft Brewers Guild. There's also a National Brewers Association. So looking for those associations and resources, I think, has been really helpful for us. So I would say lean into those. Use the resources. Yes. Always keep learning and
keeping relevant with what's going on. And again, for everyone listening, this will all be in the description. All the resources, everything that Sara has mentioned. And here's a nice part of it. So when I started this project of starting my podcast, I want to hear variety of voices, of experiences. Obviously, beer is not something that I'm familiar with either. But then I share my questions with my guest speakers. And then one thing that you really wanted to bring up, which makes sense, but I also don't, I don't see it from your perspective. So I love that you kind of added this to talk about this, because it just it wasn't on my mind, because I'm like, oh, well, you guys seem like you work together so well. So, but yeah. You want to touch on it?
Well, yeah. So I was looking at the list of questions, and one thing I thought was really important to kind of address is working with a spouse or a significant other. I started a business with my husband, which is kind of crazy. Yeah. It's not for everyone. Yeah. I think it's something people, I mean, you see a lot of people do it, right? You see a lot of family-owned businesses and they're working with significant others or parents or whatever it might be. But I think it's really interesting to think about running a business with someone that you're also living your life with as well. Because at that point, every part of your life is now intertwined. So I kind of just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I think the most challenging part is just setting boundaries and sticking to them. So, you know, I can wake up in the middle of the night and think of something that I need to tell Brent for the next day. And I'm like, okay, do I tell him now or do I wait a few hours until, like, you know, we're in work mode? So I think that the hardest part is really setting those boundaries because work and personal just now is all meshed. So I think one thing that I like to tell people is if you're considering going into business with your spouse or significant other is just to really be honest with yourself and ask yourself, is this something I can do? And really think about it and think about what that might look like and weigh your values. If business and career is your number one priority, and you think you can make it work, amazing, go for it. But if that's something you're wavering on, I think it's just really important that people are honest with themselves and think about how that might affect relationships, affect their future. And you really want to, I mean, of course you want to protect your relationship. If that's the number one thing, it might not be the best fit.
Do you think that you have, so I know that Brent is like the beer person and then you are more of like the creative. Have you learned something from his world and has he learned something from yours?
You know, it's really funny because from the beginning, I said, I'm going to come in and do a brew day with you because I want to see the whole process. And I still haven't done it, which is wild. But I think I've learned that I love what I love. And I love, like, the part that I do. But absolutely, we've definitely learned a lot from each other. I mean, I see him working, and I've learned things from that. I haven't done it myself.
So to wrap up, this episode's been lovely. I'm sitting here with my friends. You know, we didn't just hardly talk about work, obviously. And it's just so fun to see your world, a glimpse of your world. But to wrap up, I think like the biggest lesson here from what you've said when starting, I guess, any business is to really rely on your network or just create that community and just don't be afraid to ask for help, I guess. So to close out this episode, is there any final advice that you would give to our listeners?
I think one of the biggest things I've learned is you have to be able to pivot when curveballs are thrown your way. We've had so many curveballs thrown at us over the last few years. And as much as you can plan and have a vision for exactly how you want to run your business, it will never go perfect to plan. And I think that was hard for me at first. I'm like, well, no, I have a vision for it to be this way. But that will never happen perfectly. And just being able to kind of be malleable and adapt to what's your surroundings and what's happening to you is really important.
And just to also something that came to mind when you said that, because you know, you have to be resilient, you have to be strong, I guess, but it's not for everyone. Like, it's such a press for everyone to like start their own thing or do your own thing, but it's not for everyone. Like, some people are like super happy with just like where they are, and like, again, it is easier to work for someone else than start your own thing. So just a reminder, like, you don't have to start your own company if it's not for you. All right, so what I ask all my guest speakers, what song do you want to go out with?
Well, I wanted to go out with an Austin artist, so a little Texas representation. So we're going to go with a song by TC Superstar called Into You.
Okay, here it is. So you're going to do this with me? Toodles!
Toodles!
Every time I catch your first sight, and I think that I need you in my life.